For tonight, I would like to annotate games 11 and 12. This game 11 is Gelfand's last game that he has white. The first few moves of this game, up to move 8, is repetition of game 9. So Gelfand is white. He opened with d4. Anand played knight f6, c4, d6. Looks like we're going to Queen's Indian line. Knight c3, bishop b4. So it could be a Nimzo Indian. Bishop on b4, pinning the knight, is a Nimzo, and if black fianchettos the bishop on the queen side, that'd be Indian. So this line is called Nimzo Indian. It's a very good solid line, and has a hypermodern setup, and has a very good reputation as a good drawish line for black. Anand is very good with the black side of this. So white played e3, black castled. As you notice in this line, white fully develops his king side, while his queen side is still untouched. This is just the nature of the opening. In some openings, you develop the queen side first, then pay attention to the king side. In some like this, you fully develop your king side first. In some others, you make one move on each side, or two on each side. So every game is different, depends on the setups. So after castles, white continues with his development. He's about to castle short 2. So bishop d3, black plays d5, and this is just a classical development, with the knights coming to f3 and c3. This is also called the Kasparov variation. Kasparov played this line so often and had so many good results with it that they call it Kasparov variation. Knight f3, c5. So you notice black pushed his c and d pawns quickly, and this is one of the features of Nimzo Indian. So black quickly gets his pieces out. After c5, white castles, and black goes for a resolution of the pawn tension in the center. Black played d takes c4. Obviously, white has one answer, d takes c4. And now, in game 9 of the match, Anand played c takes d4. And white captures e takes d4. And now white is stuck with an IQP, isolated queen pawn. It's not so easy to take advantage of it. Black needs to strengthen in front of the pawn, isolated pawn. There are 3 steps in fighting against an IQP. Restrain, that means white won't be able to advance the pawn. Then blockade, with one of black's pieces, it blockades this square. Then remove the blockading pieces and destroy. Those are the 3 steps of fighting against an IQP. So Anand is building the pressure on d5. He played e6. This is the last game 9. And he continued with bishop g5. Black played bishop e7. White played queen e2. Black played knight bd7. And this was what happened in game 9. I don't know if you guys saw that game, but we didn't go over it over here, but it was a grueling game for black, for Anand. Anand had a very hard time drawing that game. And at the end, he had a rook and a knight and a pawn against white's queen. He had to sacrifice his queen, but he created a fortress, and white's queen was unable to win the game. So he managed, in a very long, tough game, to draw that game. So this is what happened in game 9. In this game, these guys always try to surprise each other by varying their move orders. Instead of c takes d4 that black played in game 9, Anand varied with bishop d7 move. Now this move has been played before. Last time it was played at a top level game was in 1957. So it was way long time ago. And with this move, Gelfand went into deep thinking. 35 minutes. How to respond against bishop d7. He's suspecting that Anand has done some homework. He knows what he's doing. Memorized variation. So he needs to make sure that he doesn't get caught off guard. So 35 minutes thinking on this move. Against bishop d7 in that famous Bronstein game that he played in 1957, white played queen e2. And this is considered one of white's best moves. Nothing wrong with this at all. That's a standard move. As a matter of fact, white made it, not on this very move that he had to turn, but later on. But for now, he played a3. a3 has a point to it, as opposed to queen e2 immediately. Let's say white plays queen e2. Black plays c takes d4, white plays pawn takes here, and black may play bishop c6, quickly developing the bishop on a great diagonal. Now if white plays a3, black's best is to retreat back to e7. So black has this option of retreating back to e7 if he wants to. But if white plays a3 immediately, with the black pawn still on c5, black doesn't have the option of going back to e7. Either he has to take here or retreat back to a5. So on a3, move the bishop back to a5, and now white played queen d1, e2. So you see the point of early interjection of a3. Queen e2, and black played bishop c6. So black quickly deployed his dark square bishop. If you remember in the game that he lost in game 7, this bishop sat on c8 for a long time, and that was the piece that made Anand lose the game. So he learned a good lesson from that game and quickly deployed this knight out, this bishop. In most queen pawn opening, black's queen bishop on c8 is usually his problem piece. And also in French defense, as you know, the structure, pawn structure is similar. So black played bishop c6, and we have an unclear pawn center. That means one side has a pawn in it, the other side doesn't. And this is none of the four famous types of pawn structure, which are closed, open, fixed, and mobile. This is the fifth type. When it's none of those four types, we call it unclear. When we have an unclear pawn center, centralization is very important. Put your pieces in or around the center. So rook d1 makes perfect sense, right? Rook d1 is black to play now, and Anand made an interesting move. The usual response to rook d1 is queen e7, and that would have been a perfectly fine move. But instead, he played bishop takes c3 immediately. And after white took, then bishop queen to e7. I'm sorry, he didn't play queen e7, he played knight b7. Sweetler and Kramnik were in the commentary room, and they really liked bishop d7 idea that Anand played. But they felt like black should play bishop a4 now, and this rook doesn't have good squares to go to. Rook d2 fails to knight e4. So rook pretty much has to come back to e1, and they thought that black should continue with knight c6. And they were talking about this, and they were pretty sure that this must have been black's idea by playing bishop d7. But Anand didn't do any of these things. So it was a little bit of disappointment for these guys that they thought this was for sure Anand's plan. So what did he do instead? Knight bd7. Here's a quotation by Sweetler, who was in the commentary room. He was the guest grandmaster. He said, "We thought the whole point of bishop d7 move was to play bishop a4 now, using the fact that there are no really good squares for the rook on the d file," unquote. So on bishop d7, it's white to play, and one of white's focuses in such openings, because it's a classical opening, is to take advantage of the b1h7 diagonal. So bishop came back to d3. Black to play queen a5. Okay, Anand was good at making these moves fairly quickly. And at this time, he has spent about 10 minutes on 13 moves. And Gelfand has spent almost an hour. And they have 40 moves to make 2 hours. Of course, with 30-second increments for each move. Here's what Sweetler said about Anand. Quote, "He still hasn't even spent 10 minutes, so it's safe to assume that he's still doing what he knows is best, not just what he feels is best, but knows is best, is the point. So queen a5, white to play, this pawn is under attack. He saved the pawn, c4. Because white has the bishop here, he needs to advance those pawns and give the scope to his bishops. So play c4, black plays c takes d4, white played e takes d4, and now we have what we call hanging pawns on c4 and d4. Anybody knows the definition of hanging pawns? Hanging pawns refers to a situation where there are two pawns on the c and d file, and it could be for white or black, with no pawns being able to support these pawns. And they are usually on half-open files. That means on files that only one side has pawns in it. That's the definition of hanging pawns. And there's another way to continue how to play with and against hanging pawns. Basically, the side who has the pawn wants to keep them united or next to each other for as long as possible. And he should support them with pieces from behind. And the side who is playing against the hanging pawns, he should try to force white to advance one of these pawns. And once one of these pawns is advanced, it makes it a lot easier to create holes and try to start another operation. So a little comment about hanging pawns. It's black to play, and black played queen h5. And now the commentators, especially Swidler, he said, now I understand the point of Anand's move. He wanted to keep the bishop on c6 and shift his queen to the king side so that he will give white double pawns here. Because black could take over here next. And white takes with the queen, trade, bishop takes, pawn takes. Either white gets double on an isolated pawn, or if he takes with the queen, then actually trading queens is still same pawn structure, double and isolated. Of course, white has the two bishop, so white's weakness over here is compensated by the fact that he has the bishop here. So after queen h5, it's white to play, and Gelfand made a move that in the post-mortem, in the commentary room, he wasn't very proud of. He played bishop f4, but he said that a4 was by far the better move. The idea is to bring the pawn all the way to a5 to restrict black's movement on the queen side. And if black ever decide to mess up white's pawn structure and give white double pawns, to build up against this weak pawn by rooks on the half-open b file. So this is what he felt like he should have played. He felt like he said he should have played a4. Instead, he played bishop f4. And black to play rook ac8. When you're playing on a half-open file against your opponent's pawns, you're better off having the rooks that attack these pawns, because these are going to be permanently under attack, and hopefully one of them would fall, as happens in this game. Rook ac8, white to play, and white at this point is in serious time pressure. Anand has spent a lot of time to make sure black's bishop d7 surprise is not going to be costing him too much. So when you're under time pressure, obviously you want to go into an ending and simplify the position, trade pieces. So he played knight e5. So black to play. There's a series of exchanges now. Queen takes e2, bishop takes e2, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, and black played rook fd8. So now black is fully developed. And how do we assess this position? White has the hanging pawns and the bishop here. So he supposedly has the advantage. But it's not so easy to take advantage of it. Because if he can't play d5, it won't be easy to take advantage of this space and bishop here advantage that he has. Of course, he can get rid of one of the bishops and get rid of this knight. But then this pawn structure, even though it doesn't look so good over here, chances are we're going to go for a draw. It's not easy to take advantage of this weakness. Plus that king is around here. He can't probably win any of these pawns. So he has that option, but he would rather hold on to his two bishops for as long as possible. So on rook fd8, white to play. White played a4, but there were some of the grandmasters that they felt like f3 was a nice little move in order to prevent black pieces from these two squares. So this was a serious good alternative. And when I was watching this game live, I felt like that f3, with the idea of bringing the king to e3, was a nice plan for white. I'm pretty much in control of everything around here. So instead, white is still thinking of the other plan that he had when the queens were on the board. He should have adjusted his plan. So he continued with a4. It's black to play, and simplification, played knight e4 with a serious threat. How can white deal with the knight c2 threat? There seems to be no good response. Defended with the rook a c1 fails to bishop takes a4. And rook d c1 fails to what? You can go here with the idea of going to b3, but then what if he attacks you over here? And when you go here, he attacks you again. So the knight is moving all over. But there's a simple refutation of rook d c1.
F6.
So it's f6. What's guarding this pawn? The bishop. Remove the guard of the d4 pawn. Bishop must retreat. This pawn falls. So that was a problem with rook d c1. So white is trying to do his best not to lose anything and guard everything. So play rook d3. Looks like that's the move that does everything. Now Anand made a retreating move that is really an attacking move. It's very rare you make a retreating, you retreat with one of your pieces, but you're really doing some attack with that move. Anand first kicked this bishop. He kicked the bishop with f6, bishop came to f4, then bishop e8. This gives him a little bit more flexibility in case he wants to bring the bishop deployed along this diagonal. So now white played rook b3, and no more hanging pawns for white because one of them dropped. Rook takes d4. So white could play rook takes b7, but he gave himself the choice of possibly capturing the a7 pawn. So played bishop d4. And black retreated and defended his b7 pawn. And at this point, and when Anand played this move, he offered it a draw. And everybody was shocked because he is way better on the clock. He's a very good blitz player. And even though the position is equal after bishop takes a7, it's materially equal. But it doesn't mean that it has to end up in a draw. The position is equal, but may not be a draw. So people were disappointed, the audience, that Anand offered a draw. And they don't blame Gelfand for accepting it because he was under serious time pressure. And it was Anand who came up with the first novelty, kind of semi-novelty, with bishop d7, that Gelfand had to spend 35 minutes to find the right continuation. So not very exciting game, but that's how this one ended.